Nigel Farage was on BBC Breakfast this morning and he had a message for local voters.
A crushing defeat in Labour's heartlands on May the 7th will see the end of the Prime Minister by midsummer. And that's, yes, one of the key things, not the only thing, one of the key things we've been campaigning on.
Vote reform for your local council elections and you'll personally bring down the sitting Prime Minister by midsummer via the mode of your bin collection vote. The BBC presenter pointed out, and quite reasonably, that this is a local election, that people are voting on roads and services and everything close to them that actually functions. And here's Farage's response.
Particularly in local elections, this is about their bin collections, it's about roads, it's about how everything close to them functions, and what you're doing is campaigning on a Westminster issue.
Well, it's a fair question. Two-thirds of people say in this election they'll vote that national issues will influence them more than local issues.
Which he's going off of polling statistics, not argument's sake. It describes how people feel. It doesn't explain why telling voters their council ballot will remove the Prime Minister is anything other than just misleading them. And we all know that Farage likes to mislead people. So if you are finding these videos useful, do share this because the contradictions don't tend to get as much airtime. Yesterday, Parliament voted on whether to refer Keir Starmer to the Privileges Committee, whether he misled the House over Peter Manderson's vetting process, whether the same scrutiny that eventually finished Boris Johnson should be applied to him. A meaningful vote on a meaningful question about accountability of a sitting Prime Minister. The vote went down 223 for against 335. Hopefully now they can actually move on from it. Farage had publicly backed the motion. He said Starmer should face what Johnson faced and didn't get away with. He was not there. He was not there for the debate or the division, and the man whose entire local election pitch is about holding Starmer to account couldn't make it to the one day Parliament was trying to hold Starmer to account. Parliament returned from Easter recess on the 22nd of April, and Farage's last recorded parliamentary vote was on the 18th of March. In the weeks since, more than 50 divisions have taken place. He was not present for any of them. He was, by his own account this morning, on the road.
I've been on the road now for 8 weeks. This is my first day back in London for goodness knows how long. I'm back on the road for another week.
His job is in London. The one that comes with a salary and a constituency full of actual people is in Clacton. He's been away from it for 2 months and he's framing it as a positive. He's back on the road today and tomorrow and another week, another local election campaign, more talk about accountability. He's also called Starmer this morning, something worth hearing in full.
That this is the most unpatriotic, un-British, dissembling Prime Minister that the country's ever had.
Fine. Then, when Parliament's deciding whether to investigate if the Prime Minister misled the House, you show up, you cast your vote. I mean, it's a pretty low bar, and he still couldn't clear it. Now, the council record, because he didn't just come on to attack Starmer. He made his case for reform in local government.
And we're standing on the record of the 10 councils in which we have majority control from last year, where we have saved hundreds of millions of pounds in cutting unnecessary expenditure and kept our council tax rises lower than the other parties running comparable councils.
Hundreds of millions saved, apparently. So let's have a look at their flagship. Kent County Council is the biggest council reform controls, 57 of the 81 seats after May 2025, an outright majority, the kind he's describing, a proof of concept. By September of last year, Kent was forecasting a 46.5 million overspend. Reserves to fall from 78.5 million to 41 million by March. Again, their own minimum target of 5% of budget. They hit 2.7. Council's tax rose by nearly 5%, as close to the legal maximum as you can get without a referendum. A councillor was suspended after threatening to kill his wife. The council leader was caught on a leaked footage swearing at colleagues, calling whoever released it weak, foolish and guilty of treachery. 7 councillors have since walked out to join Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain, and Reform's majority has gone from 57 seats to 47. The Greens won a by-election there this month. Hundreds of millions saved, and that's the direction of travel. The Worcestershire exchange from this morning is also worth your attention because it shows you exactly how this works.
If you speak to people in Worcestershire, though, their county council, the council tax went up by 9%. So that's my question about what will people see.
No. We are not in majority control in Worcestershire. We chose to adopt.
It's a minority administration.
Minority lead where we can't make decisions without getting the votes of other parties. So Worcestershire's a different case, and frankly, a bankrupt council.
And do you regret getting involved? You've said that on the record before.
There have been one or two interesting conversations between myself and our leadership team in Worcester. I did publicly say I'd rather we'd left it alone, but hey.
So the councils that go badly, he distanced himself from. The ones he cites as proof, the 10 that they were clearly in control of, he decides which ones count when he's making the argument. The residents of Worcestershire don't get the option when their bill arrives. And on the vetting problems, 74 of the Reform councillors who have resigned walked away, defected, been expelled or suspended since last year's elections.
Do you still have an issue with vetting and selection?
Yeah, I mean, Labour have lost 300 and the Tories have lost 200, so there is a big churn in local government. On vetting, let me say this, that we've put up candidates in 99.9% of elections that are taking place next Thursday. We're pushing 5,000 candidates, and a handful of them we've had problems with, chiefly because they lied to us about their past associations or about social media handles we didn't know about. However, let me say this, we've dealt with all of that. The Conservative Party have had to suspend more candidates than we have. The Greens have had, goodness knows, problems on a massive scale. Even Plaid in Wales had to suspend one of their candidates for saying some awful thing about underage people. So every party with an election of this scale faces these problems. I would say, compared to years gone by, our vetting is now very, very good. And if all anybody can find is a handful out of 5,000, I think that rather proves the point.
The numbers he's citing are absolute figures. Reform have lost a higher proportion, and the defence of your record can't simultaneously be we're competent and trustworthy and, well, everyone has problems. The man has spent a decade positioning himself as the defining political force of a generation, who spent the same decade briefing that he has the ear of the most powerful man on earth.
Putin invaded Ukraine. I had no influence over that. Trump and Israel bombed Iran. I had no influence over that. What I do have influence on is what we do with energy policy.
And so there's one more clip that's worth including because it puts a frame around the whole thing.
Would you agree to directly debate with Zach Belansky?
Well, I think all he wants is a great big row. So I'm not sure there's any upside of that.
He won't debate the Greens. He won't show up to Parliament. He won't vote on the accountability motion he publicly endorsed. But he will tell you on BBC TV that this morning that your vote in a local council election is the mechanism that ends Starmer's career. What he's asking voters to do is his job, the job he isn't doing. Clacton elected an MP. What they got was a campaign asset. One who's been on the road for 8 weeks, who'll be back on the road today and tomorrow, and who wants to be Prime Minister without first demonstrating he can be bothered to be an MP.